Yeah, only so much to say about Bleeders, 1997. The reason I wanted to discuss it and the reason I viewed it, for one thing, I think it would be. I claim to only be discussing Lovecraft film adaptations that I consider to be of note slash of interest. The reason this one was of interest was due to the involvement. This is the final screenplay that had involvement from Dan O'Bannon. The end result is not bad. Actually, it's quite atmospheric at points. I think there's a good idea here, and I think the finale, the last 20 minutes, can be quite exciting and interesting, visually stimulating. You know, there's a lot of interesting troll creatures running around. It's really cool. Although, man, does it reek of this kind of 90s alternative style. Like, you know, the aesthetic of, like, these 90s telly films, ugly video aesthetic, could look be Degrassi or Scream. God forbid, I absolutely hate Scream. I'm a horror film fan, but I think the Scream franchise is disgusting and not worth existing or acknowledging. I just did. There won't be any videos on them, but that's what I mean by acknowledging. Anyway, Bleeders. Well, let's give some context on Bleeders, why don't we? Bleeders is also known as Hemoglobin. It was a 1997 Canadian picture directed by one Peter Svatek, and apparently it's based upon Lovecraft's The Lurking Fear. I don't know how. There's some similarities. It may as well not be. It has a downbeat ending, which I quite liked, but man, otherwise, it is difficult to imagine too many fans of Bleeders existing out there, or it converting any new ones. I will say though, I compared to some of the other crummier Lovecraft adaptations around, this one does strike me as above average, given the central plot gravity of the wife leading around her husband who's suffering from a hemophilia-esque rare blood condition. There is something inherently unnerving and kind of memorable about the plot of the film, about the experience of watching the film, in between the kind of, you know... I mean, there's the presence of Rutger Hauer. He's fairly watchable as well. There are things in the film which made me feel as though it was superior to some of the other films we could have potentially talked about in a very H.P. Lovecraft Christmas. I did want an example of kind of a lesser film. We already had Cthulhu Mansion, but, you know, it didn't seem like we were exploring enough of the breadth of what actually has been released if I didn't discuss at least a couple of supposedly or seemingly, or, well, actually definitely lesser of these Lovecraft film adaptations. You may have noticed I skipped The Curse, Pulse Pandas, Dark Heritage, Lurking Fear. I'm not... Oh, and of course the Unnameable duology. I already mentioned I was skipping those. Those films I just find kind of somewhat wasteful. They don't make me feel that satisfied or happy once I'm finished with them. I honestly feel like I've wasted my time after I watch those films. Whereas I have to say, I actually don't feel that way about Bleeders. The Nova Scotia... Is it Nova Scotia? Where's it shot? Where's it set? It looks like Nova Scotia. It's like French Canada. New Brunswick. Grand Manan Island. Yeah, it's beautiful. You can see them in the screen caps, no doubt. I think that's enough about Bleeders. Have a great day, night, wherever you are all. I hope everyone is absolutely well as can be. Thanks again, my friend.